Buenos dias, amigos. Feliz Navidad. We're here with Susan Snyder today.
Or Merry
Or
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, yes.
A happy holiday.
Happy holiday, Merry Kwanzaa. I think that comes up soon.
Hanukkah.
Right? Yeah, all that stuff.
All those.
It is the season. 'Tis the season for joyous occasions. We have Susan Snyder here with Norman Public Schools. Talking about a great program that gets kids up and moving around. Really, really good for all of our kinesthetic learners, people who just want to get up out of their seat and get them wiggles out. We're using left and right parts of our brain. We are super excited to have Susan with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Susan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in education or dealing with small children for probably 30 years or more. And
So you got started at a very young age.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just when dinosaurs roamed here. I taught for 7 years down in Washington, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then my husband's job transferred us to Pennsylvania for a year. And when we moved back, I figured out it was better for me to stay home with my own kids than to try and teach. So I stayed home with my girls for about 13 years, and then I went back into the classroom when we moved again to Wichita, Kansas. And that's where I was introduced to Bal-A-Vis-X, and then job change again moved us back to Oklahoma. Norman's home.
Nice.
That's where we grew up and went to school.
So we have two early connections.
Yes.
One, I spent some time in Hutchinson, Kansas, outside of Wichita. And two, I currently live in Purcell, which is right next to Washington, south of Norman. So
Right.
we're kindred spirits in
What
some
a
way.
small world this is. It's a Christmas miracle. I've never seen anything like this.
Well, we're glad to bring you along.
I'm just glad to be here today.
We'll include you.
Yeah. So, Susan, tell us about this program.
Okay, Bal-A-Vis-X is a program that uses sand-filled bags, racquetballs, and balance boards to help integrate children's brains, help to get them to use both sides of their brains. I was introduced to it in Kansas. I worked at a health and wellness magnet for the Wichita Public Schools. And our principal was always looking for something that would help us to use our magnet, so like whole body integration.
Mm-hmm.
So he suggested that we go to this workshop one summer, and I said, yeah, I was interested. I'd heard about it, didn't know much about it, so I went.
How long ago was this?
2009. It's been
Okay,
about
wow,
10
yeah.
years.
Oh, yeah.
And then my middle daughter had always struggled in school. So during the trainings, Bill, the developer of the program, Bill Hubert, he will have people bring in struggling learners or somebody that has a disability or something as an example, and to show you how to get started with the program in your classroom. And so my daughter came, and she was like the test subject one day. She came in, and we found out that she was completely cross-dominant, and that's why she struggled so much in
What does
school.
that mean?
It means that her gross motor dominance was different than her fine motor dominance. Her eye dominance was different than her ear dominance, the whole thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's a
There are
part.
some of us out there.
Ah.
So, and especially if and we found out that she was left eye dominant. If you're left eye dominant, then when you're under stress, your non-dominant side will shut down. So your dominant side, if you're left eye dominant, is wanting to start on the left side and read to the right. And that's not the way we do it here in the good old US of A. So anyway, she was a little mad. She says, why don't teachers know about this? Why don't they understand this? So she picked up on the exercises quickly, and he offered for her to come and work in his studio that he had behind his house to become a trainer. And so she did that for a year. She mentored and learned how to be a trainer. And then she started traveling and working
Nice.
with him. And then her little sister did the same thing. And she's been instrumental in training all the teachers in Norman.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's kind of how I got involved with it. I've used it in my classroom for 10 years. I primarily did kindergarten, and then after kindergarten, I went into becoming a reading specialist. I taught first grade for a couple of years in there too. So,
And bless
So
your heart
my-
for doing kindergarten.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Kids
Sainthood.
haven't marinated all the way yet. You know what I'm saying? Like.
So my understanding is like there's around 300 different exercises that can be associated with this.
there's individual exercises, there's group exercises, and there's partner exercises. So
Wow.
you're having to, it forces cooperation, it's rhythmic, it's predictable. One of the girls that I know that, one of the teachers in Wichita, she uses it extensively. She's recently become a trainer, and she has found a correlation between Bal-A-Vis-X and Bruce Perry. So Bill started developing some exercises for the use with people with trauma. They're also going to present at the National Trauma Informed School Conference
Okay.
in Atlanta in February.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an avenue it's taken. It's also used with soldiers up at Fort Riley, Kansas, that have PTSD and traumatic brain injuries. They use it with the whole family. They use it outpatient and inpatient there.
Wow.
Yeah, and so like I saw a video about it, and it wasn't just passing bags back and forth rhythmically or bouncing the ball. Like they were just using their hands and like stacking their hands on each other and stuff like that. So yeah, it doesn't like if people are worried about we don't want bouncing balls in the classroom or in the hallway. There are a lot of different ways that they can use it. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. The bags are an integral part of it for sure. You can get the same benefits by passing the bag, or even if you don't even have a bag, you can get the same benefits from passing just an object.
Okay.
It forces tracking, visual tracking, helps to strengthen your eye muscles.
Yeah. Why is this so popular? Why is this so successful? How does it help people? Like has Bill done like the brain research? Like what is it?
He's very well versed in brain research for sure, but he started out. He was a classroom teacher, and
Okay.
what he wanted to do was to help his struggling learners. And what he noticed, because he was a first grade teacher, he noticed out on the playground that his strugglers were void of balance and physical skills. So he thought, well, maybe if I fix the physical first, then the other will come. And so over the course of many years, he perfected this and then moved it into middle school and was doing it he had a lab in
I bet
middle school.
Kids would love that.
And he had these strugglers come in, and they did Bal-A-Vis-X, and they were able to make gains and successes. So
Will you kind of talk about your experience with it for your kindergartners? Like, what was like your favorite activity to do with them?
well, they all want to bounce the ball for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that
And
makes sense.
And it's I've done some of the group exercises with them. I had one little boy the first year we were doing it. He was able to bounce 3 balls at once.
As a kindergartner?
Yeah, 5.
What? My goodness.
So-
That's
but
impressive.
that
Hell,
was-
you got probably could do too.
Yeah, my goodness.
And one of the things with Bal-A-Vis-X is what you can't keep to yourself. You have to share it with another friend.
What do you
So
mean?
They aren't entitled to only be able to do it themselves. They have
Okay.
to help teach somebody else. And that,
So that's like a rule of the program.
yeah, and there's a behavior component to it too. If you're not doing the right thing, because there are specific techniques to it, if you're not doing it right, then you might not get to do it that day. Next day, try again.
Good, yeah, I like that.
So the kids love it. It's fun.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it enjoyable. And teachers see the benefits of it. It helps to regulate them.
Yep.
If a kid has an attention issue, they're not going to learn anything if they can't focus. So an opportunity to go out in the hall and maybe do a few exercises and then come back in and focus.
Would you use this kind of like with your kindergartners, like as like a brain break?
Oh, absolutely.
Like you would guys.
What I do is when I first started using it, we'd come in for the morning. We had a all school assembly every morning. We'd come in and the kids knew to put their things away, and then they did Bal-A-Vis-X until it was time for reading intervention. Then we moved to reading intervention. Then we do our whole group stuff, and then we get ready for a transition between reading and math, and we do it again.
Okay.
And then we do it as a break right after recess too.
Oh, that's good.
Right before we started the rest of our afternoon.
Specials and stuff, yeah. But and you would see it kind of like recalibrate the kids, like.
Definitely. When I first noticed, because I did like a little mini research for Bill when I was in Kansas, and what I noticed was that my students, the other teacher and I shared students for intervention, and so I noticed that my students were having to be redirected less than hers from the other people that were working within my room doing intervention.
Yep.
And that was the first thing I noticed. And then I noticed that the kids were starting to pick up on auditory, on the sounds of things a lot faster. And then at the end of the year, she did not use Bal-A-Vis-X and I did, and our test results were pretty different. I even had all of my students were at district benchmark or above by the end of the year in phonemic awareness.
Very nice.
So the only thing I could attribute it to was the Bal-A-Vis-X, because we shared kids fairly equally. We team taught, and the kids came in at the beginning of the year, and we observed them, we tested them, and then we split them equally.
Okay.
Nobody had all the behaviors. Nobody had all the kids that struggled. It was very equal.
So what would be some of the, like you talked about doing it in groups, so what would be some of the group things? What would be some of the, benefits that kids would get out of doing it as a group?
Well, it's the synchronicity that they hear when they're doing it as a group. There's nothing like being in especially when you're taking the training, being in a gym with 65 people and you're bouncing a ball in rhythm and it sounds like one ball. It's a calming effect. And I mean, that has to have benefits for a kid, especially a kid that has trauma or gives them a chance to be calm.
Well, they like whenever babies are born and stuff, they have those sound machines that have like the heartbeat that mimics the inside of the womb and stuff like that. I think a lot
Just
of
think
that
the rhythm
of it. Calming,
I just think that
putting people in
rhythm,
sync.
Yeah, rhythmic predictability makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I like the part that it has a behavior component. So like the expectation is not just, hey, we're coming out here and playing with some balls. Like we're doing this together. Everything needs to be kind of orderly and have a purpose for it instead of just kind of free play.
Right. There's certain techniques to it too, because you can't. The people that have the most trouble when they're doing trainings are the jocks.
Sure.
Even though they think they can bounce the ball, there's a certain way you have to do it, because you can't teach it with a snatch like a jock would catch a ball. So we have to. I've been to hundreds of trainings, and we have to de-jockify them.
Sure, I like it. I break them down.
Break them boys down. So what's maybe a story that comes to mind for you for a student that that this reached, that this made a difference for?
There's a bunch. There's when a friend of mine came, when I was first trying to get it at my school in Norman, my principal allowed me to host a training. So I had some outside people that came in that their fee helped to pay for part of the training because we wanted our staff to be trained. So my friend taught in a private school in Oklahoma City, and she came down for the training. And during the training, one of the things is that Bill teaches us how to use a ball to check for visual tracking. And so she had learned that then and was working with a student in her class, and he was struggling, and she was doing the interventions that they had suggested, and he still just wasn't getting it. So she thought, well, maybe his eyes aren't tracking. So she checked his eyes, and she said they were just all over the place. She had mom come in, showed her, and mom took him to the ophthalmologist, and the child had been seeing double vision his entire life. They didn't even know.
That's probably
it.
going to hinder a little education.
I can see that getting in the way.
So he was able to get help and overcome that. So it's good. I mean, change his life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I witnessed a little boy at one of our trainings. He came in. Mom said he'd had a stroke in utero, and Bill had him write his name, and it was all over the place. It wasn't spelled correctly. They did 10, 15 minutes of Bal-A-Vis-X with him, like you would start. He was one of our test people that came in that training, and then afterwards he wrote his name perfectly, spelled correctly, and handwriting was great. I had a little girl in class too many years ago. She had cerebral palsy, smart as a whip, but handwriting was all over the place. And I have a sample of her handwriting at the beginning of the year, and then again at the very end of the year. At the beginning, you can't hardly see it. The end of the year, it's great. And I asked her, I said, well, why look at the difference here. Why is it like that? Yeah. And she says, well, because I do Bal-A-Vis-X.
Look at her. Put her on a commercial. I like it.
Yeah.
How did you get started with it down in Norman? Like, what was that process like?
Well, I taught at Kennedy Elementary School, and we were an open concept building.
Okay.
And so there was no hiding bouncing balls in your classroom. So my principal asked me about it, and I explained it to her, and she understood the benefits of it and how it would help, and that's why she encouraged me to get the rest of our staff on board. And they saw it, they understood it, and they could tell a difference. Yeah. So that's how it started. It was at my school, and then my daughter was playing volleyball in middle school, and one of the other moms that was there was the director of professional development for the Norman schools, and so
nice person to have on your team.
Yeah. So every time we sat on the bleachers watching volleyball, I'd mention Bal-A-Vis-X. Oh, you need to see this video of Bal-A-Vis-X. You need to see this. You need to see this. I was persistent. That's a nice way of saying I was annoying.
Sure.
And then she said, finally gave in, and she scheduled a training.
Nice.
And then it's just kind of snowballed from there.
Nice.
We've had at least one training every year since then.
Nice. So talking about startup costs, like what does it run to host like a big training?
Well, it does. Our district's pretty nice in that they give it, because it's over a weekend. It's all day Friday and then all day Saturday, and the teachers get a stipend for coming on Saturday. So, but Bill's costs are minimal. They're especially if he doesn't have airfare or anything like that. And I've always hosted all the trainers that come and help. A lot of them are my own kids. So
where's Bill based out of?
Out of Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, okay. Oh man, that's a nice little drive. That's it.
Yeah. So
that's perfect.
It's gotten bigger in Oklahoma. Yukon had a training this summer. Mid-Dells had a couple of trainings. Okmulgee, I think, has had a training.
Well, and like the trend is like to build a space now, like an active learning space, where they can, teeter on the boards and, do math problems at the same time and stuff like that. The model that you kind of suggested to work in a traditional fashion, but then, okay, great, let's take a brain break. Let's get up, every 45 minutes or so. Let's do these things together, more structured instead of just, oh, I'm going to put on Go Noodle and I'm going to,
Exactly.
sit over here. So,
And when my students were finished with like their center work,
Mhm.
if they went over into the corner somewhere and they weren't bothering anybody, then they were allowed to work on whatever individual exercise they were working on at the time. So that helped too.
Yeah.
They really liked it.
So, how much, like a starter kit for a classroom, like balls, sandbags, those type of things?
Okay, large kit size is going to be 2 balance boards, 24 sandbags of each color, and then you're going to have a couple of dozen balls, and that usually runs a little over 300.
Okay.
That's not bad.
Not
No,
no.
not bad at all.
That's not
It's-
bad at all.
And the balls in the bags last for. I've bought one set of bags and I still have them.
Yeah.
So, and the boards, the boards are a different thing. I didn't use them very much when I was in Wichita, but when I came to Norman and and I was teaching in the open concept,
Mhm.
we had 4 first grades, and it was like a grid. We were all in like a square, and so if somebody and like I said, I taught in a school that had a lot of kids that had trauma and things like that, so we had a lot of behavior issues. And there was one day when there was a little boy in the class that was over here. He was throwing things, throwing chairs, just causing a big ruckus.
Yeah.
So this teacher can't teach, I can't teach, the teacher over here can't teach. So I went in, I took him by the hand and I walked him into my room, made him stand on the balance board. I set the timer. I said, I'm going to set the timer. When the timer goes off, then you can go back to class. And you're going to stand on the board. You're not going to mess around. If you mess around, I'm going to give you more time. And so he stood there, and his hands were just like little fists, and he was mad, and his shoulders were up. And I watched him for about a minute or so, and within 2 minutes, his hands opened up, his shoulders started to drop,
Yeah.
and then I went on and continued what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then the timer went off, and I had even forgotten he was in there.
Yeah.
And he said, Miss Snyder, the timer went off. And I said, are you ready to go back to class? And he said, yes. I said, well, put the board away, go in and apologize to your teacher and your class.
Yep.
And let's not do this again.
Yeah. Yeah, just, that refocusing. I remember whenever I was an elementary school principal and we'd have kids, they just shut down.
Oh, absolutely.
And so if there's anything that we can do to kind of help with that trauma and help them not ruin their day, like I would have kids that would throw fits at 8:30 in the morning. I'm like, is this how you're starting your day? Like we have another 7 hours, kiddo.
Yeah, exactly.
And so just having something that you can go to that they're familiar with, that can really kind of help bring them out of that funk and get them back on track to be productive for the day. Is awesome, and it's only $300 for a startup kit. I mean, heck, teacher could do like a donor's choose for that.
We've had lots of that. We've had, especially in Norman, our Norman School Foundation has been amazing
foundations
with
Yeah, I bet
giving
Sonic would help with
grants.
all that stuff. The Callus Ed Fund. I mean, you could probably use a lot of that stuff for that sort of program and go district wide. Or if people wanted to, throw money at that, then there's always ways to do that and help people out.
And I know a couple of districts, they wanted to have a training, and they kind of got together and hosted a training so that half of their teachers could go and the other half.
Use
So-
Title II funds for all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like how you said Bill was using it for middle school as well.
Mhm.
Those kids just starting puberty, getting all arms and legs, stretching all out all over the place. Help them get a little more coordination, stop being Spaghetti Sam, and getting their bodies in order. I'm all for it. All for it. Yeah. What else you got, Jason Midkiff?
Well, I don't know. After Trying to refocus. I need a
sorry,
balance board.
sorry about that. Yeah.
That got me off.
I should have brought my equipment with me.
Oh yeah.
That's why I was hoping we'd do like a little demo. We could pass
Yeah, I
the
was
sack
looking for us.
together. It's all
That would
good.
have been great.
All good.
So, are there any that you know of trainings that are planned? Like, if someone was interested that are coming, or is that something we need to do?
You'd have to email Bill, and he'll give you the contact information of somebody in your area.
Okay.
This is all over the world. It's not just
Right.
here.
So we didn't do a good job keeping the secret.
No, it's I mean,
I guess that's okay.
my younger daughter and I were able to go to a training in Scotland. There's a lady and her family in Scotland that has taken
Seeing
over
some
all of the-
opportunities for us.
Yes, sir.
taken over all of the European
Yeah.
trainings. They go to Paris. There's Germany,
Uh,
Slovenia.
It'd be a shame if we had to go to that.
Yeah, I mean, but we probably should for the kids.
Just do it. We gotta do it for the kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's very interesting because at the training there was a assistant from Slovenia, there was one from Germany, and then one from Scotland, and my daughter was there from the U.S. And we had them all there, and they were all lined up doing the same exercise. He just said, we're going to do this, and they did it, and everybody was in rhythm, everybody was in sync because of the techniques that they've learned. So.
Well, this is, obviously something you're passionate about. I mean, your family has gotten involved. I mean, is there anything else just, about the program, what it can do? Is there just anything else that, you want to make sure our thousands and thousands of viewers and listeners?
It's, it's not just for kids, and it's not just in school. Like I said, it's being used with the soldiers in the military. It's used in nursing homes. They really like they do more of the group exercises because of the social aspect of it. So
I bet that'd be a kick in the nursing homes.
So they really enjoy it. In fact, some of the exercises they've come up with themselves are difficult. I mean, in that you're having to bounce a ball and toss a bag in the air at the same. And
that's challenging.
Because you're talking about totally changing your brain set there.
Yeah.
It's the first time you drop that bag, trying to think that it's going to bounce is definite feeling. It's like, oh man, that really doesn't bounce.
Yeah, we can probably schedule something to host here, like a little in-house action.
I'm thinking, like, when I go camping, my family has, amongst all the cousins and stuff, we've got all kinds of kids, and normally we just play bocce ball.
Yeah.
But if we could start doing this,
Oh yeah.
kids that have, they can redirect. We don't have to get on to them. They can have fun. They're playing.
Exactly.
This would be even better.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So this can help me out personally besides all the other kids. This would be great.
Well, Susan, we appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, like I said, let's start working on getting let us host something
Yeah. We'd love to get
where we can
involved.
get educators over the summer, in here for a little 2-day
Absolutely.
workshop, and we have a great stained concrete floor here that would be perfect
Yes.
for some racquetballs.
And
As long as it doesn't have to be level.
it's-
Oh, is that goes?
But
Don't worry about that, we'll
It can be adapted to anything, especially even super special needs kids that are in wheelchairs.
Nice.
Or I had a teacher come from another district to one of our trainings that Norman hosted for outside people, and it was the second day before I even realized she only had one hand.
Mm.
She did amazing.
Yeah.
She just adapted to
Yeah.
herself. She knew how to
For everyone.
do
I
it.
love it. Yeah,
So
very
it is
inclusive.
for everyone.
All right, folks, we appreciate you tuning in today. Have a very safe and healthy holiday. If you want more information, hit the notes below the video. Go to Donors Choose to donate to the Catalyst Ed Fund. Hit us up, and we can get you in the right contact with people for that. But most importantly, be safe and have a very happy holidays.